She raised her glass and laughed until I pointed to the sheriff standing beside me, and the whole party froze. Inside, I felt the ache of betrayal, yet my resolve only sharpened. I refused to whisper or hide. I wanted every guest to hear the truth land heavy in the air. And still, this was only the beginning of what they would learn. The morning sun spread across my kitchen table. Catching on the rim of my coffee mug and the edges of the pill organizer I kept near the bills. Most days, I tried to enjoy that quiet hour, the stillness of a neighborhood where folks were already at work and the hum of cicadas slipping through the open window. I had my little bungalow paid off years ago, the last piece of a life I built with my husband before he passed. That home was more than wood and brick. It was my anchor. Losing it wasn't something I even allowed my mind to picture. Still, a certain hum of dread had followed me lately. Flyers shoved in my mailbox promising cash-out refinancing, spam calls about Medicare upgrades, and the simple math of retirement savings stretching thinner than I cared to admit. Retired didn't mean foolish, and I often said to myself, I wasn't born yesterday. That was when I noticed a crisp white envelope sitting on top of the power bill and a grocery coupon flyer. It bore the logo of a regional bank. My stomach tightened. I slid it open with the edge of a butter knife, expecting some generic advertisement. Instead, the page shouted back mortgage statement amount due. The number beneath made me grip my mug tighter. $650,000. The loan number, the 30-year term, the property address. I didn't recognize it all spilled across the page in bold print. Past due glared like an accusation. I read it once, twice, a third time until those digits no longer looked like numbers but like a threat spelled out in black ink. Breath caught high in my chest. My lockbox still held my Social Security card, my passport, and every document I'd safeguarded since my husband's passing. No one had permission to touch them. And yet here was a debt with my name and Social Security digits tied to it. I steadied my hands and reached for a yellow legal pad, the kind folks my age keep because we know memory gets doubted. I wrote down the loan number, the hotline, and a note to myself. Call immediately. After 3 rounds of hold music, a polite young voice answered. She verified my identity, rattling off my name, address, and those digits only the government and I should know. Each word pushed me further into disbelief. Yes, Mrs. Kincaid. The loan was closed last month. I asked for copies of the signed papers and the closing date. She offered me a case number and promised an email with attachments. Her ma'am. I understand sounded kind, but it felt like the ground slipping beneath me. When I ended the call, I sat with the pad of notes before me. You may doubt my memory, I murmured, but the paper won't lie. I highlighted my next steps, print the email, freeze at least one credit bureau, and place all copies in a new folder. Then I stared out the window toward the lake community where new houses had sprouted. The type of neighborhood my daughter, Isolde, adored for photo backdrops. I dialed her. She answered with a sing-song cheer, then snapped. Mom, are you okay? Did you take your meds? My jaw locked. I told her the figure, the letter, the facts. She chuckled. Mom, you're mixing up junk mail again. These scams target seniors. Her voice dripped sugar and doubt. I replied evenly. Names, dates, signatures. Let's look at paper. Not feelings, she countered. Don't make a scene, please. Don't mom me like I'm confused, I said, calm as a still pond. I'm fine, and I'm writing this down. She mumbled something about being busy and hung up quick, as if facts could wait. I marked the time of the call, the summary, and closed my pen with a click that felt final. That night, I placed every page into my fireproof box. I texted her. We'll review the documents together. Tomorrow, no emojis, no soft edges, just plain truth. Minutes later, I scrolled Facebook and saw a neighbor's post a flyer for Isolde's grand housewarming by the lake. My name wasn't listed anywhere. I whispered my late husband's old phrase when boundaries were crossed, we'll see. Then my phone buzzed again. This time, the screen lit with a message from an unknown number. Stop digging. By the time the weekend rolled around, I had already driven past that new subdivision once. I told myself it was just curiosity. But the truth was, I wanted to see the lay of the land before I ever stepped foot on Isolde's stage. The guardhouse sat like a little courthouse, all sharp corners and mirrored windows. A sign near the gate spelled out HOA rules: no overnight street parking, no soliciting, fines for unsightly lawns. Vendor vans idled nearby, unloading coolers and flower arrangements. I thought, name's Zelma Kincaid. I've been around the block. Gates don't scare me, silence does. I memorized where guests stopped, where staff slipped in, even where the valet signs pointed. That dog won't hunt. I thought if they tried to box me out. When the evening came, I chose a navy dress, simple and respectful, with heels low enough to keep me steady. My tote carried only what mattered: my ID and a folder slim with paperwork. The air was thick with Carolina humidity, string lights strung like pearls across the driveway. An acoustic duo strummed, neighbors already swirling wine in plastic tumblers. At the check-in table, 2 young women sat behind iPads. Their trays held enamel pins stamped with the couple's initials. Wristbands in 2 colors, VIP gold and plain silver. I stepped forward, placed my license down where they could see. Zelma Kincaid, I'm family. They scrolled, eyes flicking between screen and me. Are you with catering? One asked, voice too polite to hide the sting. The first small cut, I felt heat climb my neck but kept my tone even. From the corner of my eye, Creighton strode past, coaching a vendor, his suit sharp enough to slice. He didn't even glance at me. The iPad finally showed Z, Kincaid vendor. My name wrong, my role wrong. One woman peeled a gray staff sticker from the roll, holding it like a bandage. That's incorrect. I said, steady as stone. It's Kincaid with an I. And I am not staff. I am the homeowner's mother. Their smiles froze. After a scramble of whispers, they offered me a silver guest sticker. Not the gold family band. I accepted it, sliding it onto my tote with fingers that looked calm even as my pulse beat hard. I snapped a photo of the iPad screen, framing it as if texting my son. Paper trails matter. Inside, the house gleamed with quartz counters and platters of cheeses, magnolia blooms catching candlelight, laughter bounced off the glass doors. I heard neighbors chatting about mortgage rates, lot prices, new builds on the lake. Isolde floated through, arms open. Her smile rehearsed for every lens. I passed a couple who murmured, "Food looks amazing. What a team." I let their mistake bounce off. I whispered to myself, I'm here as family, and I keep receipts. Baby. Then she saw me. Her smile hiccuped, then plastered itself back on, louder than needed. She called, "Mom, how did you get here?" Her every head within earshot pivoted, my back straightened, through the front, like family. Her voice pitched higher. "You should have called. This is a lot." I met her eyes. I did call. "We'll keep it simple tonight." Her fingers twitched at her dress hem. "Please don't make a scene." I gave her the smallest smile. "I never do." Creighton appeared, hand sliding to her elbow. "We're thrilled you could make it." "Zelma," he said, smooth as butter on glass. I saw the stagecraft. I drifted toward the patio, noting a clipboard left behind on a vendor table. An LLC name leapt off the page, familiar enough to freeze in my mind. I texted it to myself letter for letter. A neighbor finally caught my eye and nodded kindly. I returned it with, "Enjoy yourself. Sugar." Timing is a tool. As the sun fell, staff rolled out a mic stand. The string lights dimmed, leaving faces glowing in anticipation. Isolde tapped the mic, ready to tell a story that didn't have me in it. The string lights hummed faintly in the humid night, stretched across the patio like stars caught on a wire. I stood at the back with my tote clutched loosely, palms folded one over the other. Folks crowded closer to the mic stand, the cicadas buzzing beneath the strum of Motown from the band. My daughter stood at the microphone, Creighton shadowing her shoulder like a man born for optics. From where I stood, I could see the rental glassware glint, the magnolia centerpieces lifting their scent, and the neat row of VIP family place cards on the head table. Mine wasn't there, I whispered to myself. I can hold my water. I can also hold a line. Then the thanks began. We couldn't have built this without our builder, our lender, the HOA board, our wonderful neighbors, and of course, the Sloan family. Her voice floated across the crowd like honey poured on ice. People clapped, nodded, hummed their approval. There was a pause, just long enough for my name to fit, but it never came. I felt it like the missing note in a hymn, a silence that screamed. I breathed deep, counting each phrase as though I were tallying debts. What's omitted matters more than what's said. She wrapped it all up with, "We couldn't have done it without y'all." Courtesy words, but not one pointing to me. My chest tightened, then settled into stone. Silence can be a ledger, too. And I was recording every line. Creighton stepped forward, glass lifted like a peace offering. "Let's keep the night positive," he called out, a porch-light glow masking a rotten step. He pulled her into the line of neighbors waiting for photos. His hand never left her elbow. I caught the way he angled her body away from me, curating the scene as if I were an uninvited shadow. A woman beside me whispered, "What a lovely family," and the word family rolled past me like rain on wax. I straightened, squared my shoulders, tilted my chin just enough. I wasn't invisible, not to me. When a young server passed with a tray, I nodded gently. "Thank you, baby. Respect is never optional." When the microphone passed down, I walked forward, not to steal the stage, but to draw near enough for her to hear me. My tone was low, calm. "We'll review the closing documents Monday. Names, signatures, times." Her lips kept the smile wide, but her eyes flickered. "Mom, not tonight," she hissed through her teeth. I leaned in, soft as breath. "I'm not debating. I'm scheduling." She swallowed, face frozen for the camera flash. "I didn't fall off the turnip truck," I added, "and I keep receipts." Then I stepped away, letting the message hang without spectacle. Pulling my phone, I texted the same words Monday, 10 a.m. "My house, bring originals." I snapped the screenshot. Paper trail grows. 2 guests approached, asking about catering, assuming I was part of the team. "I'm the mother," I said once. Plain and clear. I didn't repeat it. I let it land where it would. Off to the side. I tapped out a message to Dorian come Monday. No excuses. The read receipt flashed. No reply. His silence was a choice I filed away. I checked my portable charger, clipped back into the rhythm of someone who has lived enough years to plan ahead. I stepped toward the side gate, let the lake breeze cool my skin, and counted to 10. Facts first. Feelings after. The band lifted into a Motown chorus. Couples swayed. For a moment, I felt my late husband at my back. Then a staffer walked past, carrying a slim envelope stamped with the bank's crest. I didn't chase it. I mapped the room instead, doors, patterns, habits, under the lights. I whispered, "No more stage, only records." I thumbed the edge of my license, grounding myself. They had written me out loud tonight. I'd write myself back in ink. Just then, a woman brushed my elbow and leaned in, voice low enough for me alone. "Miss Kincaid, I think you'll want to see this." The music faded as I slipped into the side hallway, the kind of space where coats and spare trays hid from the show. The lamp above flickered soft, giving the air a muted gold. That's where she found me, a woman with a lanyard brushing against her blouse. "Miss Kincaid," she asked, voice low. "I'm Ardella Voss. I work with the bank's operations team." She checked the doorway toward the patio before turning back to me. "I saw something in your file that didn't sit right." My pulse steadied even as my breath caught. I nodded once. "Speak plain." She pulled a manila folder from her tote, careful to angle her body from view. Elder instinct told me to shift against the wall, making sure no camera lens could catch what we were about to share. She opened the folder and slid a photocopy toward me. My eyes scanned, and I felt the vindication flare. Loan number identical to the letter I'd received. A closing disclosure stamped with a notary's seal. The signature at the bottom tilted up, smooth as if someone practiced my name, but I signed down and right. Even stiff joints don't change the rhythm of a lifetime. Ardella pointed to the timestamp and branch code. This wasn't an e-sign. Someone was in person. I traced the escrow account Note Shell, LLC. The same string of letters I'd glimpsed earlier on that patio clipboard. "You brought this into the light," I whispered. She nodded firmly. "You didn't deserve what's happening." I asked if I could snap a picture. She shook her head and instead handed me a crisp photocopy. "Better chain of custody." "Ma'am, keep it dry and flat," she said as I slid the sheet into a rigid folder in my tote. We exchanged numbers. She spelled her name slow Ardella, so I logged it right. I scribbled the notary's name, commission number, and branch onto a sticky note. My habits kept me alive. Write it, date it, store it. Monday. I said, "I'll be at the county office. Deed copy, credit freeze, lawyer if needed." Ardella gave my arm a quick squeeze. "Non-emergency sheriff can guide you tonight." I stepped into the laundry alcove, as hushed as a pew. I dialed the county's non-emergency line, gave my name, my address, and the plain words "possible identity theft tied to a mortgage." "I have documents." The dispatcher was steady. "Stay put. A unit can swing by." I gave the gate details, ended the call, and wrote the time into my pad. Old ladies win with paper, not panic. Straightening my dress, I whispered, "Thank you for your time," before slipping back toward the murmur. The crowd hadn't missed a beat. Isolde's laughter soared higher than natural, Creighton's eyes darting like a stage manager scanning cues. I didn't chase. I stood near the check-in table, near the patio steps, choosing my ground. People brushed by, offering scraps of small talk. I answered with short, clean lines. "Evening. Enjoy yourself." Yes, I'm family. I wasn't hiding, and I wasn't performing. My phone buzzed. I sent one line to Isolde. "Monday 10 a.m. Confirmed." Her phone lit in her hand, but she didn't look. That was fine. I wasn't moving either. The band shifted into a softer tune. My jaw loosened, but my resolve only sharpened. Out past the hedges, the lake caught a faint glint of blue and white. Moving slow across the water, I lifted my glass of iced tea, face smooth as if nothing had changed, behind me. The patio door opened, laughter spilling then fading again. My feet planted firm as church pews, I whispered, "Let the truth do the talking." The blue light flashed once more. Help had found the right house. The deputy came up the stone path, string lights bouncing off the polished badge pinned firm to his chest. He tipped his head first toward me. Respectful. "Ma'am, do you have the documents?" I steadied my voice. "Yes, sir." I guided him 2 steps left, away from the party stream, but still in plain sight. I wasn't hiding. I pulled the rigid folder from my tote loan notice. Ardella's photocopy. My notes with times, names, and the customer service case number. He asked straight questions when I learned who I called, if I authorized anyone. "No, sir." Each word clipped, clear. Older women know that clarity carries further than shouting ever could. Then the sharp turn came. Isolde spun from her circle of neighbors. Smile stretched brittle. "Mom, how did you get here?" she called. Loud enough for every stemmed glass to pause mid-air. I lifted my hand toward the deputy. "I came with the sheriff's office." The color drained right out of her face in the patio glow. Heads swiveled, murmurs rippled. Creighton smoothed his tie and strode forward, his grin pasted on like a campaign poster. I stood steady. "We're keeping this civil and lawful," I said, voice pitched for the crowd, so they'd hear boundaries, not family gossip. The deputy raised a palm. "Folks, give us a little room." The crowd shuffled back 2 polite steps, the hum of conversation thinning to a hush. I held still. Proof in one hand, a badge at my side, vindication without theatrics. Creighton tried the host act. "Officer, this is a private event. Perhaps we can talk inside." His tone slid oily smooth. The deputy didn't blink. "Sir, we can speak wherever Miss Kincaid prefers." I answered clear. "Right here is fine." Isolde tried her script, eyes darting to the neighbors. "Mom, please, I refuse the cue. We'll stick to facts." I rested my statement down like a cornerstone. "A $650,000 loan in my name. I did not sign. I have evidence of forgery." The deputy asked if I wanted an identity theft report opened, tied to this venue. "Yes, tonight, behind me." 2 women murmured, "Bless her." I didn't drink a drop of pity. My phone buzzed in my palm. "Unknown number. Walk it back now or we'll make you regret it." My stomach stayed still. I'd been threatened before. I screenshot quick, showed the deputy. He nodded. Save that. Ma'am. I forwarded it to my own email and copied Dorian with one line. This is what silence feeds. Then I asked, can we add this to the report? Yes, the deputy said, and we'll request carrier records if needed. I caught Creighton's jaw clench like a vice, but I didn't comment. I just murmured to myself, don't write checks with your mouth. You can't cash with the law. The deputy photographed my documents, logged my ID, and jotted Ardella Voss as a witness. I gave him the exact time the bank letter arrived, the case number, and the Monday meeting I had called. I pointed out the check-in attendants as witnesses to the guest list mess, my name shoved into the vendor column. I mentioned the Shell LLC scribbled on the clipboard. He wrote it down neat. Tonight we'll document and issue notice. The county investigator will follow. I nodded once. That's enough. Let the record show I'm present and unafraid. Would you like me to address the host? The deputy asked. Yes, I said. He turned toward the patio. Voice cutting clean. Miss Isolde Maris, Mr. Creighton Sloan, may I speak with you regarding a sworn complaint? The string lights flickered. Conversations wilted. Even the band softened to a hum. I closed my folder and squared my shoulders. The night had just been given a new definition of family. The deputy reached for the folded papers, and the party fell silent enough to hear the water. The deputy lifted the folded notice under the string lights, his badge gleaming as steady as the lake's reflection. Conversations died out. Even the cicadas seemed to hush. Please confirm your names, he said, looking straight at Isolde Maris and Creighton Sloan. They both nodded stiffly, hands tense at their sides. He acknowledged my report in a voice stripped of drama. All procedure. I stood the 3 steps away. Folder closed, my chin lifted but calm. Watching the check-in attendants listen from their post. Folks, step back, please, the deputy added. And the patio shifted like a tide rolling away from shore. I checked the time on my phone, noting the minute. My memory keeps better than any tape recorder. Then came the moment no stage manager could spin. The deputy's words cut clean through the air. This is to notify Miss Isolde Maris and Mr. Creighton Sloan. Their names echoed across the deck, louder than the music had been all night. A guest gasped. A wine glass rattled against the railing. Someone whispered, identity theft. I didn't grandstand. I answered one question, why voice plain as stone. I did not authorize a $650,000 loan. Then I stopped. Isolde plastered on a smile. Too wide, too brittle. Creighton stepped forward, muttering, let's take this inside. But the deputy shook his head. We're fine here. His body cam light blinked blue, recording every breath. A teenager raised his phone. The deputy told him, keep your distance. Still, the truth was already loose in the air. That's when the stray remark landed. A woman from the HOA circle, thinking she was quiet, said, funny she didn't even have the down payment. Heads turned like weather vanes. A neighbor cleared his throat. The band stopped mid-chord, strings buzzing in the silence. I didn't twitch. I looked the deputy in the eye. Please note that statement as a witness comment. He wrote, allegation down payment came from elsewhere. I added steadily. There's an LLC on the vendor clipboard matching a Shell address. I'll supply the string. The woman stammered. Oh, I just heard I cut gently. Understood. I let her words hang exactly as they had fallen. Creighton tried to pivot. Officer, perhaps counsel should be present. The deputy kept it level. You're free to consult counsel. This is a receipt of complaint. Isolde shifted into charm mode, her accent syrup thick. We respect the law. The deputy's tone was flat steel. Good. Cooperate with the investigation. I didn't argue. I simply asked for the incident number and repeated his name back to him for the record. Then I requested that the check-in attendants be logged as witnesses for my earlier mislabeling, and we took their names down around us. The energy drained from party chatter into courthouse stillness. I pulled my phone, texted the incident number to myself, and emailed it to Dorian with one line Monday at 10 stands. I asked the deputy if photos of the check-in iPad could be captured later. He noted the request. I confirmed I would bring originals Monday and provided Ardella Voss's contact number, spelling it carefully. As a server passed, I said, "Sweetheart, could you be my witness that I stayed calm?" She nodded, eyes wide, and the deputy logged her first name. I drew a long breath. My shoulders squared. Dignity was my uniform tonight. The deputy folded the papers again, promising follow-up. Guests whispered in low tones. Their party drained into tension. Over their shoulders, I saw Ardella near the side hall, a flat mailer tucked against her arm. She gave me a cautious nod. At the deck's edge, Dorian lingered under the eaves, hands buried deep, eyes lowered. I raised 2 fingers, an old mother's signal for look at me, then lowered them. Timing is a tool, and mine was sharp. Ardella lifted the mailer just enough for me to see the bank seal, and Dorian looked away. The porch light threw a steady glow, catching the sheen of Ardella Voss's mailer as she stepped out from the shadow. The party noise dulled behind us. No longer a celebration, but a murmur. She held the flat envelope like it weighed more than paper should. "Miss Kincaid," she said quietly. "I obtained a copy we keep for audits. It's public record for borrowers, nothing internal only." I straightened my shoulders, moved to the small porch table, and brushed off a dry space. My rigid folder clicked open. Papers lined neat. The deputy stood 2 steps back, his body cam light glowing blue, silent but present. I lowered my voice. "Let's put it flat. No crumpled edges." Ardella nodded and slid the documents across. The cicadas droned steady as a metronome. The house lights behind us flickered against glass. She pulled out the closing disclosure and signature page. My name, Zelma Kincaid, inked bold, but the pen told on itself. The flourish on the Z shot upward, when mine always drops down and right. The K looped lazy, where my hand cuts clean and sharp. Even a clerk behind a counter could see it wasn't mine. The notary block named the officer and gave a commission number, expiration date, and timestamp that landed square on a day I had been at a medical appointment already logged in my insurance EOB. "Ma'am, do you attest this is not your signature?" the deputy asked. My voice came steady. "Yes, sir, I do." I traced the missing habits aloud, the rightward lean, the pressure that leaves my K indented, the tucked dashes, none of it here. Ardella added. "Escrow routing matches, a shell address near the lake, same as what you flagged earlier." The deputy photographed each page for record. Ardella gave me a clean photocopy for chain of custody. From the porch edge, my son lingered, hands sunk in his pockets, wedding band catching the light. Dorian wouldn't meet my eyes. I said it plain, "Monday, 10 a.m., my house." He nodded once, lips pressed. "No, Mom. No, I'm here." I thought to myself. Sometimes silence is consent to the wrong thing. The deputy logged him as present. I asked that his number be included. "Son, you know my hand." I tried once more, pointing at the page. "Does that look like mine?" He exhaled, glanced, then let his eyes drift toward the lake. His silence spoke louder than words, protecting appearances, protecting inheritance. He chose comfort. I chose the line. I turned back to the documents. No pleading, no performance. The deputy read out the notary's name. I spelled it back. He confirmed the commission number, the branch, the timestamp. I requested the report reflect my conflicting appointment record. I'd supply proof Monday. Ardella signed her own statement, not on behalf of the bank, but on what she handled. I asked about freezing credit tonight. "Yeah, ma'am," the deputy said. "Add alerts on all 3 bureaus." I typed a checklist in my phone. "Freeze credit, recorder's office Monday. Request deed copy, bring originals, consult attorney if necessary." I repeated softly, "We'll do it by the book. The book is how I win." The deputy handed me his card. I read his name back. Accuracy as respect. Isolde drifted near the doorway, a smile fixed like it belonged on TV. Creighton lifted one hand as though smoothing air. "Mom, people are here to celebrate." She tried. "They still can," I answered. Voice, even. I kept the forged signature at my waist, not waved, just held. Creighton pressed. "We'll handle this with counsel." The deputy replied, "You may. This remains on record." A neighbor whispered, "Bless her heart." I didn't flinch. Pity wasn't mine tonight. The band went silent, leaving only the lake and the boards under my shoes steady as pew wood. I texted the meeting notice to Isolde, to Dorian, to Creighton Monday. 10 a.m. My house. Bring originals. No +1s unless counsel. This is not a discussion, it's a review. I noted to myself, porch light working. Doorbell camera charged. Dining table set like a deposition papers. Clock, highlighter, water pitcher. One phrase ready to repeat, let's stay with the paperwork. The deputy offered the non-emergency line if needed. I nodded. Timing is leverage. He closed his notebook. Ardella tucked the mailer back. The crowd thinned. Mutters fading. The HOA woman hovered, apology in her eyes. I gave her a polite nod and moved past. Dorian stayed shadowed, mute as a fence post. Inside, a server wiped a glass ring from the quartz island, as if life could be polished back smooth. My phone buzzed an email from County Investigations. Please preserve all originals for chain of custody. I tapped it open, folded my folder, and breathed in the cooler night air. Monday morning came with a calm I hadn't felt in weeks. Sunlight spilled across my dining table, catching the edge of the water pitcher I'd set out beside neatly stacked papers. Each folder wore a bright tabloon letter: disclosure, notary block, witness. My phone sat fully charged, its screen glowing with the incident number from County Investigations. At the far corner of the table, I placed a note card that read, "We stick to documents. One person speaks at a time. No raised voices." Beside it rested a small wrapped box, the gift from the party I had never opened. 2 chairs sat opposite me, legal pads waiting, highlighters torn and ready. I whispered to myself, we're not here for apologies. We're here for accountability. They arrived 5 minutes late, as I expected. Isolde led the way. Creighton close behind, his jaw already set to argue. Dorian trailed, hands deep in his pockets. I kept my tone even, phones face down. If you step out, we pause. I slid packets across the table, each page in the same order as mine. Tabs aligned so there'd be no confusion. Creighton started. Our counsel suggested I cut in. Not unkind, but firm. Counsel can join by phone. Today, we review facts. Isolde's eyes flicked toward the gift box, but she looked away quickly. I began with spelling names, verifying addresses, reading dates. The rhythm was deliberate paper. Pen. Truth. I spread my driver's license and passport beside the borrower's line from the closing disclosure. My Z descends. This one rises. My K cuts sharp. This one loops lazy. The pressure, the spacing, the lean, none of it mine. I placed a copy of my clinic appointment log beside the notary timestamp. Proof I was across town when this signature was supposedly inked. Creighton reached for doubt. People sign differently when stressed, I replied, steady as stone. Then stress managed to change my handwriting and my location at the same time. Dorian shifted his weight but stayed silent. I marked the page with a yellow flag labeled fraud hold request. Then I lifted the phone. Ardella's voice filled the room on speaker. I read the incident number. Fraud flag entered, she confirmed. Temporary hold on the loan. Collections paused, pending investigation. A ping lit my screen with her confirmation email. I saved it as PDF. Proof locked tight. A knock sounded at the door. The sheriff's civil unit stepped inside, calm as Sunday service. Ma'am? Service for Isolde Maris and Creighton Sloan. Envelope slid onto the table. Civil complaint for identity theft and lease pendants notice clouding their title. Freezing any sale. Isolde went pale. Creighton sputtered. This is overreach. The deputy didn't blink. It's notice. I signed the log and said one line to the room. This is the last check you'll ever cash in my name. I reached for the small box, sliding it forward. You left this aside last night. I lifted the lid. Inside lay a silver bracelet, the star charm from my mother's pattern. Light glinted once before I closed the box and drew it back toward me. It goes where care lives, I said softly, placing it in my drawer. Then I handed Isolde a letter, cease and desist, assumption of liability if she contested. Dorian inhaled as if words might rise, then swallowed them back. His silence was its own verdict. A memory surfaced Isolde, 6 years old, pressing a crayon drawing into my lap. The crooked smile she'd colored for me. I felt the ache, then let it drift. Love can be true and still not be safe. I texted investigations, all originals preserved, fraud flag in place, civil service completed. I stood, rolled my shoulders back, and closed the binder. Meeting adjourned. My own line for myself. You don't have to keep standing where you stopped being seen. As they walked out under the noon sun, my phone rang. The caller ID read, "Bank Audit." The subject was simple. A sworn recorded statement naming the loan officer now under review.